your capacity to rest in that seat of awareness, so capital S self, right? Where we can now actually observe what's happening. So we're observing always, right? Tracking, tracing what we're observing, our thoughts, our felt experience, right? Our emotions, our behaviors. In other words, our reaction to this exchange. And then if we can question it, then we know we're still in that space of capital S self, right? So if we can question it with, oh, what am I hearing myself say? Then we're still in the, driver's seat of our experience, which allows us to tap into discernment. So that is a sign of growth. And yes, the quicker we can catch it, the better off we are. And what you're talking about is being able to actually discern when something is being projected onto us, which is really hard. Like, that's a hard skill. I'm still learning it, right? Being able to identify that's actually not mine. That is a projection. And, for myself, for example, I've gone through the majority of my life taking ownership for everything. So I'm kind of one of those people where I would be hyper responsible in this situation. It has to be my fault. It has to be something that I've done. I have to be in the wrong here, right? So if this is coming at me, then I need to look at what I did that drew that to me, right? So it's my fault. So that would be my go-to neuronal pathway, right? For understanding rupture and repair. And it's my responsibility then to repair it. And that looks like either changing myself, right? So then I become the project, as we've talked about, and or taking total ownership for what happened. So feeling the guilt, feeling the shame, feeling like I'm bad and it's my fault and I need to fix this. And your discomfort, the other person's discomfort, is a result of me. Now, that's a huge burden. So being able to actually ascertain, this actually has nothing to do with me. And this person is being activated by this exchange. And I've done nothing wrong per se in the exchange. Therefore, right, I'm holding up the mirror and they're throwing daggers at me. And now my responsibility is to remain anchored. And anchored means that I'm, and this is, Lindsay, we were talking about resilience, remaining anchored when, let's say, the daggers are coming at you or the winds are strong or, there's a lot of turmoil or ruptures going on, means that you're actually able to move with it, dodge it, but you're not dysregulated by it. So resilience really is our capacity to bounce back, right? The quicker we can bounce back, bouncing back to what? They would argue a state of homeostasis or a state of coherence or a state of being synchronized, right? The quicker we can bounce back to that, where we can come into homeostasis of coherence with the field of energy and information within ourselves and within others, that's a sign of resilience. That's a sign of what's the word I would use? I don't want to use the word strength because it's not about strength, right? But the more we can attune back into what it feels like to be in a state of coherence after kind of having had our feathers ruffled a little bit, that's a sign of almost mastery, really, right, of our embodied system. So some of you have that handout, the nervous system informed workbook handout that I've used therapeutically. And in there was a question. And that question is, in this situation with this person at this time, is my reaction warranted? And that question is a question from polyvagal therapy. And it is to help us discern and ascertain whether or not our reaction is coming from past material and we're just being triggered and activated by the exchange, right? Or whether or not it's somebody else's projection. So, in other words, if my reaction is really alarmed, but there's no obvious threat, let's say, then my alarmed state is most likely connected to my imprinted past that informed my attachment system. And this is where those neuroceptive cues that we're paying attention to, which generally speaking are the 5 cranial nerves, right? And the tone of the voice, the prosody, the rhythm, the gestures, and the facial gestures, but also like the hand gestures. Those are the things that we're reading. And for example, if somebody rolls their eyes, that could mean something to you from your past, right? There might have been a harmful situation that resulted because of eye rolling, let's say, or it relayed a message to you that you were bad, as a child, let's say. So if somebody in the present rolls their eyes, you're going to internalize immediately from that place. Versus noticing and observing that that's happening. Okay, I'm alarmed. And then seeking clarity. Hey, I noticed you rolled your eyes. Are you annoyed with me? So for example, this was something that would happen for me. So what I would say to the person is like, I just want to check in. Are you annoyed with me? No, I'm not. I didn't even notice I rolled my eyes. Right? And they'd be like, okay, well, you did. So I'm just checking in because I'm curious about what that meant, because I internalized that meant I did something wrong or said something wrong and you're annoyed with me. So this is how we can start to bring communication to another level where we can actually identify the activation when you feel safe enough, right? So you quietly notice, wow, I'm really alarmed right now. I'm really activated. I'm really triggered right now. That's curious. And then you can ask yourself quietly, is this person actively attacking me? Whether it's an energetic attack or a verbal attack or a physical attack, right? Right? Are they actually coming at me? And if they're not, then you can be like, okay, so I'm activated. So something about this exchange, I'm internalizing something about it. I'm hearing something. I'm making sense out of it in a particular way. So if you can quietly kind of ascertain, what am I making? What am I telling myself about this situation? And you can do that by just thinking to yourself, what am I hearing myself say? What am I hearing them say? And then you can, what I'll do is like a timeout. I'll just go like this in a conversation. If I'm noticing, if it's safe enough and I'm noticing that these things are coming up, I'll just say, hey, sorry, timeout, one moment. Here's what I'm hearing you say. Here's how I'm internalizing it. Here's what I've made it mean about me. Is that actually what you're trying to say? And that usually shifts the course, right? It's like clarity, opportunity for another conversation. And now I haven't spun out a story that set my system in alarm and created a greater rupture. Because what happens is we end up having a primary conflict, like a source conflict. And then we end up having this presenting conflict that's layered on top of it, right? So it's most conflicts that are happening relationally are multi-leveled. And now we don't even know what we're trying to defend. But usually it stems from that primary foundational source place of how I initially internalized what it was that I was hearing the other person say, and I felt threatened by it, and I made sense out of it, told myself a story about it. what it meant, and then hooked it into what it means about me. And now my defenses are up. And then I've got all of these ways that I bring forth my protective patterns. And Jason Gaddis talks really well about that in his book, Getting to Zero, where he's got those 10 roadblocks, he calls them. You've seen that before, hey? I could show it to you again. So these 10 roadblocks are like the protective patterns that we all present relationally. And what we're trying to do is work around those roadblocks.